I'm David Edwards, and it is my privilege to welcome you to the 6th Annual Purpose-Built Communities Conference here in the great city of Fort Worth, Texas. This is really our favorite time of year because we are able to get our old friends and our new friends together in a single place. And we hope that you can learn from each other, talk about your successes, talk about how tough this work is, but hopefully draw some inspiration from those who are farther down this path than others. And come on in, have a seat. And really, it's just great to have everybody together in one place to learn from each other. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our hosts. So we are thrilled to welcome Fort Worth to our network. They came in this year. And it began with Mark and Shauna Trebe, who are here, who heard about us, who heard about purpose-built communities, and they reached out to Hap Baggett, and ultimately Larry Tubb, and a bunch of partners who are working on a really important piece of real estate that you all are going to see in Fort Worth. And they brought a set of partners to the table that are also well represented here, as far as I can tell, that included the ACH Child and Family Services, Columbia Residential, Cook Children's Healthcare System, the North Texas Area Community Health Centers, the Shops at Renaissance, Texas Wesleyan University, UNT Health Science Center, United Communities, Uplift Education, Fort Worth the YMCA of Fort Worth, Texas. So would all of our Fort Worth folks please stand up and let us thank you for hosting us here. You notice all the Texas people are sitting together. You know, whether it's at a conference or in the country, I think they want to form their own state again. I also want to thank our founders who are not here in the flesh, but they are here in spirit. Warren Buffett, Julian Robertson, and Tom Cousins. Let's give them a hand. And I also want to acknowledge something else. Last year at this time, you saw Greg Giornelli in Charlotte giving the State of Purpose-Built Communities talk. And Greg has moved on to a new role within the Purpose-Built family. For those of you who don't know, he has started a new organization called Purpose-Built Schools. And the objective of that organization is to take the experience at Drew Charter, which many of you have seen in Atlanta, which has been a huge success in our education space, and to see whether that operation can be replicated elsewhere within the Purpose-Built network. So we are really excited for him and his team, and I want Greg, I don't know where Greg is, and Aaliyah, and I don't know if anybody else from the team is here. Where's Greg? Is Greg here? There he is. Stand up, Greg, stand up. Somebody get Greg a stepladder back there. So when I told him, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I told her I was going to be doing this presentation, she said, well, Daddy, you have to do Prezi, because she's in 5th grade, and apparently that's when they're teaching Prezi these days. So since I make all of my important career decisions based on the advice of my child, we have made a Prezi presentation, and I'm going to see if this works. Look at that. All right, so as you all know, those of you who were here last year in Charlotte, we love social media. We want to get the word out about what we're doing. So we want you to tweet early and tweet often. This is our Twitter handle is PurposeBuiltCS, the hashtag PurposeBuilt2015. We want you to like us on Facebook and just really get the word out what we're doing. We'll be communicating through social media throughout the entire conference. I also wanted to give you all an update on our year this year. And so first, let's just ground ourselves back into who we are. For those of you who haven't seen what's on this slide, this is what we do. This is what Purpose-Built Communities is all about. It's a 5-piece model. We focused on highly distressed, defined neighborhoods. We identify local leadership willing to take on a transformation effort in those neighborhoods. And that leadership leads 3 major programmatic investments: in mixed income housing, in cradle to college education, and in community wellness. This is the hardest thing to do in community development today. And there are folks in this room who have experienced how hard it is to do this work. But we're all convinced, and I think most of the people here have drunk the Kool-Aid on this, that if you really want to get the results that we're looking for, which is giving kids and families who live in these distressed neighborhoods a path to prosperity, you need to implement a model of this level of comprehensiveness. So that's who we are, and this is our network. So we are now at 13 network members. We've added 3 this year. We're very pleased to welcome Oakland, Orlando, and of course Fort Worth to our network. It's a pretty good geographic spread, don't you think? We're coast to coast. And it's just really exciting to have as much interest in the model as we've found, and our conversations with folks in this room and others around the country about how to replicate this model throughout the country are really accelerating. It's a really exciting time. I thought it'd be useful to give you all just a very quick update on our network members and what's going on in their communities. Just a very short highlights. You know, all this began in Atlanta, and this year they celebrated their 20th anniversary. And Danny Shoy, who's here, and the Eastlake Foundation have this year launched a new micro-entrepreneurship program with Social Enterprise at Wayzata, which is the business school at Emory. And you're going to hear more about this at the conference, but this is an example of work that's being done to help generate economic development opportunities for folks in the Eastlake community. In New Orleans, big year for New Orleans. New Orleans, of course, was our first replicated effort of the model. It began 10 years ago after Katrina. Jerry Bruce and his team at the Bayou District Foundation I have this year broken ground on the City Park Golf Course, which will be an incredibly important amenity to the neighborhood that they work in, but will also be a revenue generator for the neighborhood. So the revenues from that golf course are going to be used to support their education and youth initiatives. So that's a great accomplishment. In Indianapolis, Emmanuel Anderson and Rodney Burns and their partners in Team Meadows have secured their tax increment financing, which is a method for generating bonds that can be used for capital expenses in our neighborhoods. This is something we encourage everyone to be looking hard at. This is going to be a critical funding stream for Avondale Meadows in Indianapolis. In Omaha, Othello Meadows and the team at 75 North have reached an agreement with the public school system there on the management of the Howard Kennedy Elementary School. And in fact, the principal for that school is spending a year at Drew, learning the Drew model, which we hope will get replicated with the help of purpose-built schools in the Howard Kennedy Elementary School. And they're about to break ground on their first phase of multifamily housing. 100 units are coming in the ground starting next year. Our team in Rome, led by Bill Crestes and Joe Montgomery, have started the Early Learning Center in the new Anna K. Davies Elementary School, and that's in partnership with Berry College. That's an important step for our folks in Rome. In Spartanburg, Bill Barnett, Kurt McPhail, and our team in Northside have cut the ribbon on their new healthy food hub at Harvest Park, which will provide fresh food options in the neighborhood, which we all know is so critical in all of our neighborhoods to get fresh food options in these communities. Birmingham, Sally Mackin and the team at Woodlawn United are finally welcoming residents in their new 64 units of mixed income housing on their site. In Charlotte, Laura Clark and the team at Renaissance West Community have begun construction on their final 150 units of mixed income housing. You saw much of that last year if you were at the conference. So that's great progress in Charlotte. In Columbus, Trudy Bartley and the team at PACT, with their partners, the Columbus City Schools and the Iowa State University, have launched the Health Sciences Academies in their 7 Near East Side schools. In Houston, the new executive director, Ann Whitlock, was hired, and their KIPP schools are up and running, and they're serving 800 students in in their community in Houston. Eddie Moreton and the team at Lyft Orlando received $20 million in tax credits and a $2 million state loan to spur development in their neighborhood. So that's incredibly important funding for their capital investments. In Oakland, Alice Simmons and the team at Castlemont and Youth Uprising opened the Castlemont Community Transformation Schools, which are now have, I think, around 200 students in it. And finally, in Fort Worth, which you're going to see all about in the next couple of days, they've secured their 9% tax credits for their mixed income housing. And their phase one includes 140 apartments, homes, and you'll see that property tomorrow, but it's fabulous progress there. The bottom line is, our community members and our network members here are making great progress, and they're making great progress locally, but when you add them all together, they're making huge progress around the country. And one of the things that we wanted to talk a little bit about today was, how big is this problem we're trying to solve? When I first joined Purpose Built, Greg had attended a conference at, I think it was the University of Southern California, and he was on a panel, and there were members of the panel, and they were talking about how to solve poverty in the country. And one of the members said, trying to solve poverty in this country, one neighborhood at a time, was a fool's errand. And we thought about that. We didn't have a great response to that, because one of the things we all struggle with is how big is this problem of poverty in our country? We talk about poverty, we see it every day in our communities, but we don't have a really good way of quantifying and understanding its causes and what the solutions are. So we decided to do some analysis on it. And the good news is that there's a lot of academics and others who are working in this space trying to answer that question. So we took some of that data and some of that analysis that was done, and we built this predictive model that we used to say, well, if given the demographics in this country and the communities and the cities, how many distressed neighborhoods are there? And based on that model, we came up with a number of 825. And the good news is that feels like an addressable number of neighborhoods. Because when you think about it, we have 50 so communities here represented in this room, and they're working in 50 of these neighborhoods, and they're doing it without any real institutional backing. You're doing it because you want to do it, and you think it makes sense, and you want to make a difference. But there is no national effort to change the trajectory of these 825 neighborhoods. So when we talk about this work we're doing and the movement we're trying to create here, I think it's important that we keep it in the context that this is actually a solvable problem. I used to be an OMB guy in Washington, so I tend to think about things in terms of federal budgets. And when I talk to folks around the country about the work we're doing, and we show them the examples of the work that's going on, one of the things they say is, well, the resources for that. I mean, where do you get the money for this? This seems really expensive to do this kind of work. Well, the fact is, if we took the resources that were invested in our flagship project in Eastlake, and we were to replicate that investment across all of these 825 neighborhoods, we would spend one time 4% of one federal budget. Now think about that. We spend about 15 to 20% of the budget every year, depending on how you want to count it, on poverty relief every year through our federal spending. A 4% investment in this kind of transformation effort would really eliminate the pathologies that we associate with concentrated poverty in our country permanently. That's the opportunity, I think, that this group actually faces, and the one that we're embracing. Is Purpose Built going to do 825 neighborhoods? No. But we, I think, as a country and as a community, could actually tackle this problem if enough folks could be energized around it. So I'm hoping, as part of what you do every day, is talk about that. Talk about not only the work you're doing, but the way that work fits into this larger challenge that we face in this country. You'll be hearing later this week from Carol Naughton and David Erickson about some of the academic work that's being done in poverty and the trends in that space. And I think the good news is that sort of influential voices in academia, in government, and foundations are coming around to this notion of place-based change as a means to fight poverty. What that means is we will have more support, that our message will be easier to sell to funders, that government will work with us rather than against us in so many ways. It's so hard it is to work with government. So part of, I think, all of our collective power here is to help move that conversation forward and to help push attitudes in our direction. Because if we can do that, I think you can all be more successful, and as a group we can be more successful. You know, and it's also important, you know, one of the things that we also want to make sure everyone understands is that, you know, purpose-built communities, we're consultants, we're here to support you. You guys are doing the hard work here. You're the ones that are making these changes in these communities. And we're the ones that are simply trying to help, support, encourage. And again, what we hope during these next couple of days is that you will together spend some time, learn from each other, and from that, we'll all become stronger and we'll be more successful as a group. So I want to give you all a hand, all the ones that are working in this.